Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. Comments by URIAH Smith from his book, Daniel and the Revelation, 1897. Our Father in heaven, guide our minds and our hearts that we may know and love you, the only true God, our Father. You reveal to us who you are through your Son, Jesus Christ, and I pray in his name, amen. Let us read Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 and 2 in the comments of URIAH Smith. In the year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. URIAH Smith comments, with a directness characteristics of the sacred writers, Daniel enters at once upon his subject. He commences in the simple historical style in his book, with the exception of a portion of chapter 2, being of a historical nature, till we reach the 7th chapter. When the prophetic portion, more properly so-called, commences, like one conscious of uttering only well-known truth, he proceeds at once to state a variety of particulars by which his accuracy could at once be tested. Thus, in the 2 verses quoted, he states 5 particular purporting to be historical facts, such as no writer would be likely to introduce into a fictitious narrative: that Jehoiakim was a king of Egypt, that Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon, that the latter came against the former, and that this was the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's reign, and that Jehoiakim was given into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, who took a portion of the sacred vessels of the house of God and carrying them to the land of Shinar, the country of Babylon, placed them in the treasure house of his hidden divinity. Subsequent portions of the narrative abound as fully in historical facts of a like nature. This overthrow of Jerusalem was predicted by Jeremiah and immediately accomplished before Christian era 606, Jeremiah 25, verses 8 to 11. Jeremiah places this captivity in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, Daniel in the 3rd. This seeming discrepancy is explained by the fact that Nebuchadnezzar set out on his expedition near the close of the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, from which point Daniel reckons. But he did not accomplish the subjugation of Jerusalem till about the 9th month of the year following, and from this year Jeremiah reckons. From Purdue, Volume 1, pages 99 to 100. Jehoiakim, though bound for the purpose of being taken to Babylon, having humbled himself, was permitted to remain as ruler in Jerusalem. Tributary was taken to the king of Babylon. This was the first time Jerusalem was taken by Nebuchadnezzar. Twice subsequently, the city, having revolted, was captured by the same king, being more severely dealt with each succeeding time. Of these subsequent overthrows, the first was under Jehoiachin, son of Jehoiakim, before Christian era 599, when all the sacred vessels were either taken or destroyed, and the best of the inhabitants with the king were led into captivity. The second was under Zedekiah, when the city endured the most formidable siege it has ever sustained, except that by Titus in AD 70. During the 2 years' continuance of this siege, the inhabitants of the city suffered all the horrors of extreme famine. At length, the garrison and king attempting to escape from the city were captured by the Chaldeans. The sons of the king were slain before his face. His eyes were put out, and he was taken to Babylon, and thus was fulfilled the prediction of Ezekiel, who declared that he should be carried to Babylon to die there, but yet should not see the place. Ezekiel chapter 12, verse 13. The city and temple were at this time utterly destroyed, and the entire population of the city and country, with the exception of a few husbandmen, were carried captive to Babylon BC 588. Such was God's passing testimony against sin. Not that the Chaldeans were the favorites of heaven, but God made use of them to punish the iniquities of his people. Had the Israelites been faithful to God and kept his Sabbath, Jerusalem would have stood forever. Jeremiah 17:24-27. But they departed from him and he abandoned them. They first profaned the sacred vessels by sin in introducing heathen idols among them, and he then profaned them by judgments in letting them go as trophies into heathen temples abroad. During these days, by trouble and distress upon Jerusalem, Daniel and his companions were nourished and instructed in the palace of the king of Babylon. And though captives in a strange land, they were doubtless in some respects much more favorably situated than they could have been in their native country. May God our Father bless you and his Son be gracious to you now and forevermore. Amen.